This week, we are celebrating our 50th podcast episode, so we decided to recap the top 5 episodes into this one condensed version. The episodes we're highlighting are the homepage must-haves, social media posting strategies to crush your goals, the 5 things your website should include to increase sales, essential WordPress plugins, and the key elements of an exceptional website. Let's jump in. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Digital Marketing Podcast. This is our 50th episode. So we are celebrating it by taking our top episodes and condensing them into one. So this is going to be packed full of information. So I can't wait to go over all of this. But before we jump into this, I just want to take a moment and thank all of our listeners and supporters who have been with us along the way. And we really just want to say thank you and wanted to offer back a 50% off discount to our DIY website course that's called The Wealthy Website. You can redeem your 50% off by using a coupon code 5450. And that is 50 FOR50, and you can use that at checkout. And if you're not familiar with our website course, it's called The Wealthy Website. And basically it's a step-by-step website implementation system that's going to allow you to easily implement your own professional website without any tech troubles or designer price tags. So if you're an entrepreneur, a service-based business, or really a small business of any kind, then this website shortcut is the one you've been looking for. And it comes with a 14-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee, so it is a no-brainer. If you're looking to save time, save money, and get your website right the first time, then go to thewealthywebsite.com to learn more. All right, so let's just jump right into this. The first podcast episode we are highlighting is episode 17 from our Wealthy Website series, the homepage must-haves. This was hands down our most popular episode. So let's just jump into the highlights. So whatever ends up being on your homepage, the most important factor is that it focuses on the customer's needs and how they will benefit from what you offer. So this is usually one of the biggest problems people have on their website homepage, is they just instantly start talking about themselves and us and what we offer. We're really, the goal is you want to talk to your audience, right? You want to put the focus on them. In this episode, if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. But basically we talk about what you offer will dictate what will be on your homepage. All of the main elements that you should include on your homepage, and we go over some design tips as well to help increase conversions. But to leave you with a quick takeaway from this episode, the top elements for a successful homepage are having a clear navigation that is concise and visible at the top of your page. A lot of times people try to get kind of cute and fun and do some unorthodox version of a navigation, and sometimes that's cool depending on who you are and what you do, but most of the time it just confuses people. So a clear navigation. Then underneath that, having a hero section that explains what you do and how it benefits your customer. Underneath that, a benefits section. This should include what benefits the customer will get. Next is the feature section, and this is usually where people default to right away. And that is what you offer. So this is where you're going to start talking a little bit more about yourself. After that, a section with social proof. So this would be testimonials, case studies, maybe some logos of people you've worked with. You just want to show credibility. And then finally, a call to action. You need to clearly state what people need to do next to take action. Okay, so that's our recap of episode 17, the Wealthy Website series, homepage must-haves. Moving on to episode 25, social media posting strategies to crush your goals. Okay, so with social media, consistency is the key. It doesn't matter what secret formula is out there that's for the best organic growth. If it doesn't work for you, then it's not worth your time. It's not going to work. One of the top reasons people fail in social media is because they burn out and they stop because it's too much. So in this episode, we go over the power of consistency, how to define your goals, the one-by-one social media platform breakdowns, understanding the algorithms, tips to create viral content, how to make social media work for you, quantity versus quality, knowing your audience, how to avoid burnout, and some tools that you can use for your social media. But I want to leave you with a quick giveaway. I want to leave you with a quick takeaway. And really, it's this right here is the main takeaway when it comes to social. The main reasons people burn out is because they start too big, they don't have a plan, and they let the numbers drive their emotions. That last one is probably the biggest one, right? It comes down to our personal expectations and judging where we should be versus where somebody else is. And we tend to look at somebody else's numbers and wonder why we don't have those numbers. So if you just don't let the numbers drive your emotions, but let the numbers drive what people are responding to, you're going to get way further ahead. And if you have a plan that you can perform consistently, then you're going to win. So, all right, that's my key takeaway from episode 25. Moving on to the next episode, episode 33, the 5 things your website should include to increase sales. All right, so it's no secret, your website's most visited page is, you guessed it, your homepage. To turn your homepage into a lead generating sales machine, there are some specific and simple things that your homepage should have. And in this episode, we do reveal those 5 things that your website must have to increase sales, and I am going to highlight those things for you right here. Number 1, your header statement. Okay, so in the top hero section of your website, your header statement or main title needs to say what you do. And you don't want to get cute here. Don't get cute and ambiguous. Be right to the point, what you do and how you help people. The next thing is your call to action. Tell your visitor exactly what action you want them to take. This call to action needs to be in the header section, and it needs to be very clear on what action you need them or want them to take. Number 3 is state the problem. Okay, so what will happen if I don't buy now? Or how do you solve the problem? What is it going to cost me? Or what is going to happen if I don't buy your product or service, right? So we're just kind of agitating the person's problem. We're identifying it. We're connecting with it. We're letting them know that we understand them and that we get it. Right? We're stating the problem. We're agitating it. So basically, this hooks our potential customer into our product or service that we are selling. So after you've kind of stated that problem and you've agitated that problem, the next step is to talk about the success. And this is number 4. Tell people what great things will happen if they buy your product. So in this next section, you're going to do basically just the opposite. We're going to tell the customer what will happen, what great things will happen to them if they buy our product or service. So we need to provide elements of success in this section. So maybe that's words, maybe that's some testimonials and whatnot. So basically that's the success part. Okay, and the 5th thing is the plan. Your website should spell out the plan. So we've shown them what we do, how we make their lives better. We've given them a call to action, but now what will happen once they take that action? We want to show them what the steps are in kind of a very high level, simplistic way. Like, how are we going to help them? So that's the plan. A quick little outline, visual, maybe it's textual, but the plan. Okay, so that wraps up our episode 33. Moving on to episode 38, the DIY website series, Essential WordPress Plugins. So to my surprise, this episode actually was one of our top viewed podcast. And I really didn't expect it to be, but it was. So that's why it's on here. Ha. Okay, so let's jump into this. So the top reasons I recommend WordPress is because of its scalability and the high level of support that's available and the large amount of integrations that are available to really build and transform your site into anything you could want. That's WordPress. It's just so highly supported. Really, absolutely anything is possible through WordPress's endless sea of plugins, right? So think of a plugin. Well, I'll get into what a plugin is in a second here. But there are many options when it comes to plugins, right? So you install WordPress, you have these plugins that you can install, and you start searching them, and there's millions of them. So how do you know which one to install? There's so many of the same thing. So in this episode 38, we cover all of that, but I'm going to leave you with some quick takeaways here on plugins and really the key points of what you need to know. So let's talk about what is a plugin real quick. Basically, a plugin is it's like an app, right, that you install on your website. So think of it as like your phone. You have your phone has an operating system, and you want to add in an app. So you go to the App Store, you install the app, and what does that app do? It adds some sort of functionality to your phone. Same thing with a plugin. Your site is built on WordPress. WordPress is like the operating system for your website. It's the WordPress core. And you go to the plugins and you install a plugin. You're basically adding functionality to your website. So that's what a plugin is. Where do you find these plugins? Well, the number one spot is the WordPress plugin directory. So when you go into the back end and go to plugins and you go to the directory, there's a search field and you just start searching stuff. So that's the number one spot. You can also find them off of the WordPress directory in what I usually find is themeforest.com. I think it's .com. Yeah, themeforest.com. And in there are a ton of plugins, and a lot of those are premium plugins where you actually pay for them. So how do you find a good plugin and avoid a bad one? So like everything, not all plugins are equal. So some things to look at when you go to install a plugin is one, the reviews, which is kind of obvious, but then also the number of downloads, right? So it's only been downloaded like 5 times, then hey, maybe you don't want to be that 5th or 6th person that downloads this plugin to test it, right? Maybe go with the one that's next to it that has like, 1 million downloads, probably the better plugin. And then also you want to see when it was last updated. If it hasn't been updated in the last year, maybe that plugin developer isn't really on top of things. So you want to make sure that it's been updated recently, and it'll tell you that. So some of the top issues with installing plugins is as you continue installing a bunch of plugins, it starts to create some security issues. So not keeping them updated is guaranteed a way for your site to get hacked. Also, by not keeping them updated, it starts to create compatibility issues. All of a sudden, things will stop working. And then the other issue is as you continuously install all of these plugins, it's going to start to affect your loading speed. So you want to be selective on what plugins you need and how you can get the job done with the minimal amount of plugins. Okay, and here's a pro tip. Remove unused plugins. Even if they are disabled, they are still installed. So if you're not using it, remove it, delete it. And then every plugin I use, I have listed in our WordPress recommended resources, where you can find that in, I'll put a link in the show notes. You can also find it in our bios if you're seeing this on social. So I'll put that in the show notes. Okay, let's move on to episode 31, the key elements of an exceptional website. Okay, so there are some really great tools out there to make it super easy for people to go out and build their own site, right? I mean, you see it all over the place. So ultimately what this means is it puts a lot of stuff into the DIYer's hands. This means that it's up to you to create a site that needs to look credible and also be effective. But is this really your zone of genius, right? Like, just because you have the tools doesn't mean you also have the knowledge. So Home Depot sells everything you would need to build a house. So just because you have access to all of the materials to build a house, does that necessarily mean you should, right? Now maybe that's a little off analogy, but I think you get the point. So in this episode, I basically go over all of the key elements that you can implement in your site that you're building that will take it from mediocre to exceptional. So let's cover some of these. And these are my quick takeaways from this episode. So first thing, create white space. So white space is the act of creating space around an item. It not only creates harmony and balance, but it also leads the reader to one element into another element, right? So it kind of leads the reader's eyes. And a lot of times people want to pack a lot of information in so everything can be seen, where it's quite the opposite actually. The more space you give an element, the more space around it, the more attention it will receive. That's creating white space. And that is probably the number one thing that you can do on your website to make it look more professional. All right, the next thing is being consistent. Everything in your site should be consistent from one page to the next. And these include items such as your header and navigation. If you're on a site and you go from one page to the next and the header changes and the navigation changes and it's different from one page to the next, that's a fail. The footer should always be the same on every page. The colors you're using should be consistent on every page. Your fonts and your styles and your font sizes should be the same on every page. Any special styles that you're using, so let's say you're using rounded corners on buttons and pictures, well, you should do that throughout the whole site. Your images, so the look and feel of your images should, if let's say you have like a blue kind of hue to all of the images that you're using, well, then they all should have that. So the voice you use in your content, so if you kind of have this tone or this voice that you're using in your content, maybe it's a funny tone or maybe it's a very serious tone or a jovial type of, kind of tone that you're writing with, then you should keep that throughout. So as people are consuming the content, it's continuous. And then also your call to actions should be the same throughout. The next thing is page layout. So you want to make sure that your pages are scannable. To do this, you want to break up your content into smaller sections where you can. In these sections, you want to use headlines, subheadlines, and bullet lists as much as possible. These are very easily skimmable pieces of content. You want to add in a related image and then also give that content some white space. This will make your pages very easy to skim and consume. So that's how people consume your website pages. They don't read it word for word. They read the headlines, they kind of skim, and then they go back and then they dive into the little pieces and portions that they want to consume. The next thing is to add images. Adding images will not only help with your SEO, but also improve the user's experience. And then the last bit is speeding up your site. So your site speed is very crucial for a couple reasons. One is for the search engine optimization of your site. So the search engine rankings are going to be affected by the loading speed of your site. So if your site loads slow, it's going to be harder for you to get better rankings. So it's something you really want to focus on and pay attention to. 53% of your website visitors will abandon your site because of this one thing, and that is the loading speed. What can you do about it? Well, one of the top culprits of a slow loading page is the size of the images on that page. So what you want to do is use a tool like tinyping.com to compress those down and resize those down before you upload them to your website. You want to try to get your images down to what I would recommend 100 kilobytes or less, and that will make a huge difference. A lot of times people are uploading images that are 1 megabyte, 2 megabytes, up to 5 to 10 megabytes. And if you think about that, when someone goes to your website and they open it up, their browser has to load this huge image. Now let's say you have 5 to 10 of those. The size of this page is astronomical and it's going to take forever to load. Now try to do that on mobile. Forget about it. So the image sizes on your website greatly affect the speed of your site. That's going to affect your search engine optimization and also your user's experience. All right, so that's a wrap. That is our 5 top episodes condensed into this one recap episode. So, hey, once again, I just want to thank you for staying with us here for this 50th episode. We are going to be continuing on, so prepare yourselves, and we'll see you in the next episode.